Hi everyone, I'm Joelle Cook, an Associate Director at FSG and a co-author of our learning brief, Evaluating Complexity. During our recent webinar, What Makes Evaluating Complexity Different?, audience members submitted dozens of questions, and unfortunately we didn't have time to answer each of those questions on the webinar. And so we've taken a few moments to gather folks to answer those questions on this Google Hangout. And so last week we talked to Srik Gopal and Hallie Preskel and answered a few questions. And today we're joined by Srik Gopal and Cris Kutzli from the Grand Rapids Community Foundation to discuss questions around specific methods and processes for evaluating complex initiatives. So Cris, Srik, welcome.
Hi, Joelle.
Hi. So I'll just jump right into the first question. What mechanisms and processes do you use to keep an ear to the ground when you're evaluating these complex initiatives? Do you have specific examples that you could share?
Yeah, I'm happy to kick that off, Joelle. This is Srik. And when you're evaluating complex initiatives or initiatives in complex environment, the context is always changing, and hence it becomes really important for us to have an ear to the ground and really have a finger on the pulse, if you want to use another metaphor, of what's really going on the ground. So we used a combination of different methods to be able to do that. In the case of the Grand Rapids evaluation, we had a monthly check-in with the program leaders. Cris was one, and there was a person on the school district side, and really kind of got a sense of key events, happenings on the ground that were really going on in Grand Rapids. And we also frequently checked in with the frontline staff, people that were in the schools, the college and career coordinators, the principals, the instructional folks, really checking in with them about what's going on really at the ground level, at the schools, what are some trends and key events happening on a weekly or monthly basis, where were things especially that were related to our project, where parents were being engaged, where teachers were coming together, where these challenge scholar students were being supported. So we really try to get a handle on how the project was progressing on the ground. And lastly, I would say we also used technology, now with Twitter and Facebook and Google Alerts, just to be able to follow the social media feeds of the foundation, of the school district, and have a Google alert of the foundation and the school districts, for instance, just to sort of know what people were talking about on the ground.
Okay.
And Cris, how was that for sort of from your perspective? I know you were on the receiving end of our debriefs and our check-in meetings.
Yeah, as you were giving some examples, I think a really great example was when a member of the evaluation team actually attended a summer camp session that we held for our challenge scholars, and he had the opportunity to not only observe the students as they were engaging in these summer camp activities, but also to spend some time with parents who attended the first evening of camp for a dinner. So I think what's been really exciting about the way that the evaluation team has approached this is looking for those opportunities that may not be readily apparent, but to really think about what's a good opportunity to have some meaningful engagement. We've also worked together, I think, on identifying who are some key community-based partners who could help inform your work, and making sure that you had the opportunity to be connected with them and to get information and understand how they were experiencing the initiative as well.
Yeah.
Great, well, thank you. Well, our second question is around the systems mapping, and we actually had a lot of questions on the webinar about that. So we were hoping that you could talk a little bit more about that process and the questions that the process was meant to address.
Yeah, and again, I'm happy to kick it off. So first of all, I want to just say something about why we did systems mapping in this case, because it's not often in evaluations. It's not a frequent occurrence in evaluations, and part of the reason was we really wanted for ourselves as evaluators to understand the system, and we wanted people that are part of the initiative to understand the system themselves, right? Really get their heads wrapped around a few simple questions. Who are the various actors who have a role to play in challenge scholars? What are those roles that they are going to play, and how are they connected? Because from the very beginning, it became apparent to us that this was not a traditional, one foundation funding one program, and that's it. I mean, there's nothing outside of it. This is really more of it takes a village type of approach. It's a wraparound support for these kids, starting in 6th grade all the way through college. So we really wanted to make sure we map who those systems players were, what those roles were, and how they were connected. And the process itself, I would say, I mean, we're definitely getting better at it, but it's pretty messy. It's pretty iterative. It typically starts with us putting forth some kind of hypotheses of what we think the system looks like, and then the program participants really reacting to it. I mean, if you can imagine large posters on the wall with post-its and flip charts and markers going all over the place, that really it took about 2 or 3 meetings for us to get to a version that people were comfortable with, and we revisited that version at the end of the first year because things had changed, and if you put those 2 versions side by side, you could actually see some of the players were different players, or some of the connections were a little different. So it really, I would say, it's not a be-all, end-all, but it really is an excellent process for folks to wrap their heads around the system.
Thanks, Srik. And Cris?
Yeah, I would completely agree. I think what has been really valuable about that process for us is helping our team, our leadership team from these 2 really different organizations to come together to develop a shared understanding about what is challenge scholars. So creating sort of a mental model that we all can, as Srik said, get our heads around, and also the notion that it is really ever evolving. I think we had we will be coming together again in June for sort of a third kind of a end of our 2nd full year together, and I know we'll be looking at that again and making some adjustments to it, because we're continuing to refine what this initiative really is and what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Srik. Thank you, Cris, for answering a few more of our audience members' questions. And thank you to everyone who submitted questions during the webinar. For more information on evaluating complexity, please visit us at our website, www.fsg.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Joelle.